Close your eyes, take a deep, relaxing breath in, and make a wish. Tonight, we will journey to a town in Mexico where a little girl experiences her local lantern festival for the first time. I'm your narrator, Carissa Vacker, and this is The Festival of Lights by Alicia Ainsley. Elena was a sprightly 7-year-old. She ran through the roads of her town swiftly, holding a bundle of copper wire in her hand. Her mother had just sent her to her aunt's house when she realized she had forgotten the key material for her craft project, and Elena was making excellent time. "I can't believe I forgot the wire," her mother had said to herself. "How could I forget the most important thing?" Elena had run like the wind to make it to her aunt's house and back home again. After all, there were only a few hours left until the festival began, so time was of the essence. Every year, Elena's small town held a festival. It was called the Festival of Lights, and all of the townsfolk and even people from outside would come together to celebrate. Everyone would make their own sky lanterns and release them into the air together. The festival was held to celebrate new beginnings and be thankful for all that had come in the past year. The Festival of Lights was a symbol of hope, and legend said that if you made a wish on your lantern, then it was sure to come true before the year was out. This would be Elena's first time at the festival. She couldn't wait to see what all the fuss was about and was very excited to see her and her mother's homemade lanterns soar off into the sky. She already knew what she was going to wish for, but she was keeping it a closely guarded secret. "Elena, what are you going to wish for at your first festival?" her older sister, Gabriella, had asked several days before. "I'm not telling you," Elena had replied, miming zipping her lips together defiantly. "If I tell you, then it won't come true. Wishes have to be kept a secret to keep their magic." It was her grandmother, her abuelita, that had first told her about the Festival of Lights as a young child. Every year, Elena's parents would go to the festival and leave her at home with her abuelita. Sometimes she would be disappointed that they didn't take her along with them, but she soon forgot her disappointment. She would spend the evening cooking with her abuelita, learning how to crochet and listening to stories. Abuelita always told the most wonderful stories and cooked the most delicious food. Elena could almost smell her homemade pork pozole just thinking about it. The earthy richness of the broth and the soft scent of lime filled her with warmth and comfort, reserved only for home and family. Elena burst through the door to her house and handed her mother the ball of copper wire. Her mother held her cheeks in both hands and kissed her forehead, thanking her. Then she set to work finishing off the lantern. Elena watched for a while as her mother cut and wound the wire and weaved the paper shell around the frame. Her mother had been making lanterns every year since she was a young girl, and one day Elena would learn how to make them too. But right now, the best thing she could do was to keep busy while her mother worked. So instead, she went off in search of her older sister, Gabriella. She found Gabriella sat at the desk in her bedroom, watching herself in the mirror and brushing her raven black hair. Gabriella's hair was so long that it flowed all the way down to her hips, and she used a soft bristled brush to tame her curls. Elena admired her beautiful older sister. She had dressed up for the festival and was wearing a bright blue and red floral dress with the red shawl that covered her shoulders and wrapped over and around her elbows. She had even applied some makeup for the occasion. Elena was too young to dress like her sister, but she hoped that one day when she was older, she would be just like her. Gabriella caught Elena's eye in the mirror and smiled at her. "You can come in if you want," she giggled. Elena came out from behind the door she had been peering around and walked over to sit on her sister's bed. "I like your dress," Elena commented, studying the floral patterns and swirls on her sister's skirt. "I wish I had dresses like yours." Gabriella looked at Elena and took a small flower from the stem of a bunch of flowers in a vase on her desk. "I'd be careful with making wishes like that this evening," she replied, standing up and walking over to Elena on the bed. "There's lots of magic in the air tonight, and you wouldn't want to waste your one wish on something as simple as that." Gabriella knelt down on the mattress behind Elena and used her fingers to pull back the front of her hair and tuck it behind her ears. She then skillfully clipped the flower into Elena's hair. Elena gazed at herself in the mirror. The red flower looked pretty amidst her short black curls, and she grinned. "Can I have some lipstick too?" Her older sister threw her head back and laughed. "Nice try. Mama would never forgive me for making her baby look so grown up." Elena sighed and gently touched the flower in her hair. "Maybe next year." The flower looked just like the red flowers their abuelita grew in her garden. Maybe that's where Gabriella had got them from, Elena pondered. Every year when the flowers were in full bloom, Abuelita would let them trim the flower bushes and make small bouquets. Gabriella would always make two, one for Mama and one for their aunt, Anna Maria. Elena would only ever make one, and that was strictly for Abuelita. Even though it was always the same and Elena would always give her bouquet to Abuelita, it didn't matter. Abuelita would always act surprised and profess that she was so grateful for such a kind gift. She would gush over the flowers and comment on what skilled hands must have grown them. She would then place them in her favorite glass vase and let Elena choose where she would proudly display them. It made Elena happy to see her abuelita so delighted with something she had done. When it was time to go to the festival, their mother revealed their family lantern proudly. They had all played their part in creating it. Elena and Gabriella had decorated the paper with drawings and different colors, and then their mother had put the lantern together. It was a true family effort. It wasn't a long walk to the field by the lake where the Festival of Lights was held. They walked along the streets of the town, along with many other people heading there. Everybody was carrying their lanterns carefully, and Elena noted that everyone was smiling and laughing and seemed in good spirits. Everybody must have been excited to make their wishes. Elena certainly was. She had planned her wish months ago. Gabriella carried their lantern as Elena held her mother's hand. The streets were buzzing with anticipation, and the local restaurants were alight with many diners inside. Tourists came from all over the world to their little town in Mexico to witness the festival of lights. Colorful bunting was strung up between buildings, creating a tunnel effect down the main street, leading the way towards the festival grounds. When they made it to the lake, there were already many people there waiting with their lanterns. Musicians played their instruments skillfully, singing a cheerful ranchera. Elena hummed along softly, recognizing the chorus. Her mother led her through the crowds, searching for a space for them to perch and wait to release their lantern. There must have been several hundred people there, all waiting for the main event to begin. Elena had always wondered what it would be like to finally attend the festival, and it did not disappoint. The atmosphere was electric. She looked around at all of the other people waiting. There were other families with children just like her, and groups of teenagers like Gabriella, comparing their lanterns and chattering away to one another giddily. There were couples waiting patiently, and older people sat in chairs, too tired to stand. There were so many people of so many different ages, from all walks of life. There were people she recognized and strangers that she didn't. But all of these people were all clearly there for the same thing: to release their lanterns and make their wishes. It had always bothered Elena watching her older sister get to go to the festival each year while she was left at home. She didn't understand why her sister got to go and she didn't. Abuelita, why does Gabriela get to go to the festival and I don't? She had asked last year as she helped dry the dishes. Abuelita patted her head and reassured her, "I'm sure you will get to go next year. But if you go, who will keep me company?" "Well, why don't you come too?" Elena suggested, handing her grandmother a bowl. Abuelita wasn't too good on her feet anymore, but surely she could sit in a chair and watch at least. "I have no need to go to the festival anymore," Abuelita replied softly. "The festival is for dreamers and for those who have wishes to make for the future. I have no need to go to the festival anymore, for all my wishes have already come true." Elena scrunched up her face in disbelief and shook her head. "There must be something you want and could wish for," she protested, but Abuelita shook her head and smiled. "I have everything I could ever want," she said adamantly. And with that, she walked over to the fridge and pulled out a tub of ice cream. Elena quickly forgot about the festival and grabbed 2 spoons from the kitchen drawer. "I'd wish for ice cream every day," Elena proclaimed, running over and licking her lips. Abuelita chortled and moved to settle down into her chair, commenting that it was a good choice for a wish. Now, here Elena was at the festival. After years of waiting and dreaming, her time had come. Their mother had spotted a quieter spot up on the hill, so they walked over and settled down on the grass. It was a great spot. From up on the hill, they had a clear view of the lake, the crowds of people further down, and the band playing triumphantly. It would be a perfect view for the main event. Gabriella and her mother smoothed out the paper walls of the lantern and topped up the fuel. Elena noticed other people doing the same with their lanterns, which meant it must be nearly time. After a couple more songs, the band faded out and the land fell quiet. Silence passed over the people, and tiny flickers of light began to pop up everywhere. People were lighting their lanterns. Elena stood to her feet and glanced at her mother, who was now lighting their lantern. "Can I hold it, Mama?" she begged, but her mother shook her head and told her she would have to wait until she was older. "But will my wish come true if I don't hold it?" she implored. Her mother thought about it and then allowed her to hold one of the corners along with her and Gabriella so that they could all release the lantern together. The countdown began. The crowd gently chanted from 10 to 1 in unison. Diez, nueve, ocho. With every number, Elena became more exhilarated. Siete, seis, cinco, cuatro. She closed her eyes and believed with all her heart. She practiced her wish in her head. Tres, dos, uno. As the crowd chanted the last number, Elena felt the lantern lift from her tiny hands, and she heard the crowd cheer in celebration. Elena's eyes were wide with wonderment as she looked up and watched her lantern float away into the dark night sky, joining thousands of others. The view was extraordinary and more magical than she had anticipated. The lanterns lit up the night sky and danced with one another, slowly circling around each other in a mystical vortex. The higher up they got, the more they looked like glowing orbs of light, like fairies or angels congregating to light up the darkness. Their golden glow reflected off the surface of the lake, shimmering in the ripples. It was dazzling. As Elena watched, she felt as if she could see magic sparkling in the air. It was as if she was watching wishes come true right in front of her. She looked around at the people on the ground. Everyone was smiling and laughing and couldn't take their eyes off the lantern show. Couples held each other close and rested their heads on one another romantically. Fathers lifted their children onto their shoulders to get a better view, and mothers cradled their little ones lovingly. The elderly abuelitas and abuelos gazed in quiet contentment from the comfort of their chairs, and the groups of friends and teenagers laughed and joked as they shared their observations with one another. Every single person was admiring the light show and loving it. Elena looked up at her mother. She was mesmerized by the glorious sky, and she looked on with a tear in her eye and a smile in her heart. No matter how many times you came to the festival, it never grew old. Every time was like the first time. Lanterns swirled around on the spot in midair and waltzed gracefully with others. With each gust of wind, they dived higher up into the night before gliding back down lower when the wind relented. Elena could almost predict their choreography, as each time she felt a soothing, cool breeze blow through her hair and tickle her neck, the lanterns would twirl with more gusto. Then, as the breeze would depart, leaving her with a growing warmth from the evening air, the show would calm down and the lights would simply hover, waiting for their next instruction. Gabriella caught Elena's eye and asked, "Did you remember to make your wish?" Elena nodded her head triumphantly and looked back out at the lanterns. She had wished it in her head, but did she need to speak it out loud? She looked around for their lantern, hoping that it wasn't too late to spot it before it floated out of sight. But as hard as she searched, all of the illuminated lanterns had blended into one, and she couldn't find it. "I can't see our lantern anymore," Elena said disappointedly. Her mother placed her hand reassuringly on Elena's shoulder and whispered in her ear, "Don't worry, little one. You can make your wish on all of the lanterns. The magic of 1,000 lanterns is much more powerful than just the one." Elena felt a rush of hope and warmth fill her heart as she smiled at the shimmering night sky. You could barely see the blue canvas of the dark night for all of the lanterns now glowing and levitating in the air. Elena's eyes glowed with the light of 1,000 lanterns, and they twinkled with the belief in the impossible that only children possessed. Every lantern held a wish longed for with all of someone's might, a wish that gave hope to people in hopeless situations, a wish that brought fun and laughter into someone's heart, a wish that everyone secretly prayed would come true. Surely, with this many wishing lanterns together in one place, there was bound to be enough energy to make them all come true. Elena took in the breathtaking scene in front of her. The magic of the lights, the sparkling lake, the love and laughter of the people below her on the hill. Her first time at the festival had been better than she could have imagined. She remembered what her mother said about the power of 1,000 wishes, and she decided to try one more time for extra luck. Closing her eyes, she took a deep breath in and sighed out. She whispered her wish out into the air one more time. I wish for ice cream every day. And as the words left her lips, she knew that her abuelita would approve.